Good evening, I'm Tim Curran. Tonight's headlines are brought to you by Cornerstone Bank. While times seem uncertain, Cornerstone Bank is here for you and your financial needs, just like they have been for the last 138 years. When times are difficult, there is no place like Nebraska. Bank on a solid foundation, Cornerstone Bank, member FDIC, equal housing lender. UNL Chancellor Ronnie Green and Nebraska President Ted Carter released a joint statement today affirming their support of Nebraska in the Big Ten, stating, quote, "The University of Nebraska-Lincoln is a fully committed member of the Big Ten Conference. It is an unparalleled athletic and academic alliance." We'll have NU Athletic Director Bill Moose on the show around 6:25 tonight for more thoughts and reaction on that. Other college football news, NCAA President Mark Emmert announced that fall championships would be postponed. However, the College Football Playoff Selection Committee has announced that they're still preparing for the 2020 season, as the decision does not affect FBS football. As of today, 4 of the 10 FBS conferences will not have a fall football season. Moving on to Major League Baseball, a few games in progress. Right now, Phillies lead the Orioles 2-0 the top of the 5th. Also, the Rays lead the Red Sox by a wide margin, 16-5 the score there in the bottom of the 6th. In the bottom of the 5th, the Pirates have a 9-3 lead over the Reds. Moving on to the NBA, just one game in progress. Right now, the Jazz lead the Spurs 38-24 with just under 40 seconds to go there in the first quarter. And in the NHL playoffs, there is one game in progress between the Blackhawks and the Golden Knights. Las Vegas, they lead that series 1-0. Live inside the Husker Sports Network studios, I'm Curran.
Your state, your team, your show. This is Sports Nightly.
The triangle formation of the near side. JD split out left. They look left. Back to throw is Adrian. He can step up and he's going to try to run for the pylon. He's to the 5. He lays out. He's in. That's a 2-point play for Nebraska. And they've tied this game in Champaign at 35 apiece.
Now, let's check the pulse of Husker Nation with your hosts, Greg Sharp and Ben McLaughlin.
Yeah, here we are, Thursday night. Glad you could dial us up for a little bit of time here tonight. We appreciate that. Big show coming up. Tim Curran teased it. We will have Bill Moose coming up here in a couple of minutes. Can't wait to talk to the Husker Athletic Director and see what his interpretations of the last, particularly 48 hours have been, and where does Nebraska go from here. So looking forward to that chat here in a few minutes. Let's start, Ben, with what Tim had on the ticker, the statement that came out at about 8:30 this morning from Ronnie Green and Ted Carter. I'll be honest, I thought we would see this similar statement yesterday from those two, just kind of put at ease and at rest all the talk that Nebraska was looking to leave the Big Ten, which came out of nobody's mouth associated with the university that I'm aware of. Maybe I missed some dynamite quote from President Carter or Chancellor Green or Athletic Director Moose or head football coach Scott Frost. That never came out. The only thing that came out was we'd like to find a way to play some football games this fall. What'd you make of the Chancellor and the President's fairly brief 2-paragraph comment that came out this morning?
Yeah, I mean, I feel like, first of all, I'm glad there was no apologizing because there was nothing to apologize for whatsoever. I think that it was probably needed just because of the wildfire around the national media and with the fans to just put an end to the speculation, to the idea that they want to go somewhere else. There are a lot of people that say, oh, Nebraska did backpedaling today. Nebraska, bowed down and gave into the conference. I don't agree with that at all. I think it was just kind of setting straight the record and kind of where their heads are at and, speaking up for themselves instead of having everybody else, including all of the national media that have put out articles on this, putting words in the University of Nebraska's mouths. And I'm really glad that we'll have Bill Moose on here in our next segment to be able to, clarify that and speak to what's inside the minds of the Huskers and their athletic department and I'm sure their relationship with the Big Ten.
Yeah, I'm glad you said that because, there wasn't an apology there. And I think some people, nationally, read it that Nebraska got back on their knees. I didn't read that. I think that was just a statement to say, we still want to be in the Big Ten. We never said we didn't want to be in the Big Ten, but it wasn't like, we're sorry we caused all this firestorm. We're sorry we got out of line. There was none of that. That was not an apology. And yet I think the perception nationally was that it was for Nebraska. I just, again, I don't know I don't know how some people are reading these things. And again, it's one of those things where you could have a room full of people and you all read the same thing and you interpret it differently. I guess that's the way it is. But I'm with you, and I think Husker fans would have been mad, Ben, honestly, if there was an apology in there. Because I think Nebraska fans are like what you just said. We don't need to apologize for anything. All we would like to do is see our football team play and try to help the economics of our athletic department, our city, and our state.
While there are 3 other big-time conferences that are still giving it a try. It's one thing if everybody came together and they said, no football, even Mark Emmert today tried to piece together somewhat of a speech today for the internet to watch. So the NCAA is still around, apparently. So that was great to see. But if all 5 conferences were to pull the plug and say, you know what, we all got together. We agreed this isn't the best thing, and then there's more of a gripe, right? If it can be sour grapes or whatever, however, I can at least understand that argument. I still don't agree with it, but I would at least understand it. But you've got teams all around our state that are still, a Barry Bonds home run away from where we are in Lincoln and playing football. So that's where the frustration lies. And you brought up the perfect point yesterday, and I've kind of stolen that, and I've said, I don't know about you, but I've been on a few radio shows the last few days trying to get Nebraska's perspective on things. How are we living in a world where it's safe for the Iowa State Cyclones to play football, but not safe for the Iowa Hawkeyes to play football? I just don't understand it. And until we start to hear from some of these medical professionals. We did start to hear some of the concerns from some of them, and they were even disagreeing with each other from what we were seeing. Until we can believe and understand and comprehend to what extent of the spectrum we're on. Why are you yanking the cord out of the wall? I think that's the biggest gripe that people around here have, and the biggest reason why Nebraska fans are using their voice so much is because we understand the impact that no Husker football has on our society, on our community. Meanwhile, you got teams that are practicing today. You got coaches that are watching game film today. And what are we doing? We got guys at home watching, playing Call of Duty and probably figuring out where they're going to go hang out with their friends. Some of them, Greg, might even be looking for a place to go play football.
Ben, to me, there seemed like there were 3 schools in particular that this decision didn't sit well. You mentioned the Iowa Hawkeyes. Part of that is because their in-state rival, a team they butt heads with for every in-state kid, the Iowa State Cyclones, as of now are playing. Nebraska was the other one. The 3 closest Division I football programs to Lincoln, Nebraska is Kansas State, Kansas, and Iowa State. 3 programs that Nebraska, within the 500-mile radius, recruits against. They're all playing. Ohio State. Who's Ohio State's biggest competition on the recruiting trail? Alabama, Clemson, Georgia, LSU. Oh, they're all playing. Is it a coincidence that the 3 schools that probably are the most unhappy by this decision may have the most to lose because they're not playing, while teams they butt heads constantly with on the recruiting trail, as of now anyway, are going to be playing football in 6 weeks?
Yeah, I mean, it's just a tough situation all the way around. I mean, I've had Husker fans that are friends that don't live in the state, and a lot of them have been reaching out the last couple of days, and a lot of their questions are geared more toward the fallout. And the sad thing is that I've talked about with each one of them, the worst part is obviously the infrastructure of our community, and Husker football being a fabric of so many important places. The other big part to this is going to be what type of disadvantage, not just Nebraska, but the entire Big Ten Conference is going to be if for some reason the Big 12 can pull off a 6-game fall schedule. If they can even make it through half. I mean, is it a long shot? Maybe. I don't know. But as of today, they're still going, so I have every reason to believe that they're at least going to try. That will be so detrimental to this conference for the next 1, 3, 5, 7 years that I don't know we can fully understand it yet.
Totally agree. All right, the other big story of the day also came out this morning, and that was Purdue head coach Jeff Brom putting out his thoughts about how spring football could work. And basically what he was suggesting was early February, camps open again, early March, first weekend of March. You start an 8-game schedule, no bye weeks. You play the 6 teams in your division and 2 crossovers, ending the regular season right toward the end of April. And then part 2 of that, Ben, was you don't start next fall, the 2021 season, until October 1st, and you reduce the length and schedule of that season from the 12 down to 10 to give the guys another month of recovery. He's distributed it out, I guess, apparently to everybody, got a lot of play nationally. This kind of goes against what Ryan Day, Ohio State's coach, was kind of offering up yesterday, and I don't think he'd put near the thought into his scratch plan that Jeff Brom did at Purdue. Ryan Day from Ohio State was saying he thinks camp should open in December. You go play doubleheader games in domes in Minneapolis, Detroit, Indianapolis, and Milwaukee, where everybody plays in those sites, kind of a bubble, where you'd have a noon kickoff for one game and maybe a 5 o'clock kickoff for the second game. You play indoors, so you get out of the weather, and you start it in January. So you have 2 head coaches already that have floated plans out there. So let's start with the Brom one, which seems to is getting most of the headway across the country today. What'd you make of that?
I mean, in theory, it's something that could work. Now, I go back to my biggest issue with this, and I put a tweet up about this immediately after the Big Ten put out there, or the commissioner spoke and said there was going to be no football, is on what planet is it safe to have football players play 20 games in less than a calendar year? And coming from a head coach, nonetheless, I can understand it if it's a bunch of suits that are in there talking about it that have never played football and don't know the physical toll that it takes on your body. But to hear it from a head coach was a little surprising to me. I mean, he knows what those Sundays are like and those Mondays are like when you just get done playing the Badgers and you just get done playing the Hawkeyes and you're all beat up. You know exactly what it's like. You want to do that 20 times to your players in a calendar year. It's such a far cry to me, Greg, that this happens. To me, the only sense that it makes, and I think it's even a stretch at this, is to play your division. I mean, if you're trying to play a spring, play your division, have your 2 division winners play at the end with all kinds of tiebreakers because you know it's probably going to happen. There's your conference champion. I still don't think even that's going to happen. But the idea that you're going to squeeze 8 games in the spring and then turn around a few months later and start it all over again, absolutely insane to me. So, yeah, I mean, to somebody that is reading that on paper, go, yeah, we can make that work. We can fit that in the calendar. Yeah, I mean, that's all you got to do is do this, this, and this. Hopefully by then there's a vaccine to the virus or we have better handle on health and safety. Yeah, that's going to work. Let's just roll it out and do it. No, I don't think it's going to work at all.
He did have some things in there about no padded practices during the week, so you really can't hit up. That would limit the guys. But 8 straight weeks, that's a haul. Even for a normal college football season, 8 straight Saturdays without a break. Man, that just seems like an awful lot.
Remember what it was like a couple of years ago when we didn't have a bye week until Iowa. Oh. I mean, how beat up our players do not like bye weeks at all. How much all of them wanted that bye week so bad. And I'm remembering the seniors the year before going, thank God that's not me, and I don't have to go play 11 games before a bye week. I mean, that's coming from the players themselves. So, yeah, I mean, and even no pads. Isn't that putting your team in danger on Saturday? If you're not practicing that stuff during the week and you're expecting them to just go out there on Saturday and do it, isn't that opening another can of worms in terms of, practice and technique and all that stuff, especially for your younger players? I just don't think it's going to work.
All right, let's go to the phones. Jason and Lincoln going to lead us off tonight. Good evening, Jason. Welcome to Sports Nightly.
Hey, guys. Hey, Ben, last night you were saying you were pretty frustrated, which is understandable. What's the point in working out? What's the point in working out if we can't do anything? Well, here's what I think will happen, because I think football is important enough money-wise, and I think with the virus and the treatments, the vaccine possibilities and the treatment, I think they will play a spring football season. And here's why you work out, even though you don't know, because Frost should get these guys laser focused, any practice we can get, or at least conditioning, working out, knowing the playbook inside and out, team unity. Just focus on that September, October, November. Then they're going to give guys, they're going to give them an extended probably Thanksgiving and Christmas break. They're going to cut them loose, and they're going to say, kids, go home in the heart of this flu and COVID season take a long break. Frost can tell the guys, we have been working our butts off since August, September, October. Now we're November. I'm going to cut you loose until you come back in January. And if you come back and you've gained 15 pounds and you haven't done any workout regimen and you ate like a slob, then maybe coming back isn't for you. Maybe you're not meant to be a Husker. Because when we get back in January and have some sort of practices leading up to a abbreviated spring season, then you better be ready to go. And I think this is our chance to get guys experience, build the team unity, memorize that dang playbook, and just get better and better conditioned and just start fresh in 2021. I really think there'll be some sort of season. It may be a bubble type of season. It may be a condensed season. Who knows? Maybe nothing. But my last analogy, and I said this a couple times today, you remember those Chilean miners several years ago? They were down there. They didn't know, there was no certainty. They just knew they were underneath the ground and the tunnel had collapsed, and they didn't know if they were going to be rescued. They had a guy, their leader, their Scott Frost, so to speak. He kept them busy. He kept them occupied. He kept them positive. He had them rationing food and water. He had them moving rocks and coal from one side of the thing to the other just to keep them busy and to exercise them. And sure enough, after a few weeks, they were able to get a message to the surface, and the surface was able to talk to them and say, hey, we're coming for you guys. 69 days later, they got out of the hole, but they were alive. Nobody killed themselves. Nobody gave up because they had a laser-focused leader down there. Can you imagine how horrible that would be, not knowing for weeks? They didn't even know that the people up on the surface were going to try to look for them. They knew they were under there. But, a lot of times those mines collapse and nobody ever, tries to get you out. They try, but it's just feeble. But they hung in there and they did it. If Frost says, all right, guys, this is what we're going to do. When January and February come, we are going to rock it. That's what we need to do. Thank you.
Hi, Jason. Thanks. I got to get to Bill Moose here real quick. You want to reply to that?
Yeah. I mean, these kids have. That sounds great in theory. Again, I mean, it's a. Realistically, though, Jason, these kids have already been working out for 8 months to play football. How much longer are you going to keep them motivated, to keep them focused, when you can't give them a straight answer of when this work is going to pay off? These kids are 18, 19, and 20 years old. They're not adults fighting for their lives in a mine. They came to Nebraska to play football, and when you can't tell them when that's going to happen, I don't know how you can expect them to show up day in and day out, giving 110%, when they don't know what the means to the end is. I mean, I don't know what motivator out there that could keep a whole team motivated to keep showing up to workouts when you can't even tell them when they're going to play again.
I do think that this coaching staff will get creative. They will find a ways to kind of use the fall as an extended spring practice, which they didn't get. I do think they will come up with some kind of plan. But there's also a ramp-up process that you have in football to get them ready to go. They have gone through that ramp-up process with the thought they were playing football in September. So now you probably have to back off a little bit, go through kind of a spring workout, work on the things that Jason talked about, but then you've got to, like he said, and it may be a longer time than that, you got to go downtime and then start to ramp up again if you play in March. All right, need to get to a break. Got Bill Moose hanging on the line. We'll get to the athletic director for the University of Nebraska. That coming up next. Welcome back, Sports Nightly here on the Husker Sports Network, and delighted to be joined now by the athletic director for the University of Nebraska, Bill Moose. And Bill, I know for the fans, for your coaches, it's been such a roller coaster, the players over the last 7-8 days. How have you compartmentalized the last 8-10 days of what we've all been through?
Well, it's been fast-paced. The process has taken 5 months, Greg, and then it all came to an end fairly quickly. And that certainly is frustrating. I feel for our coaches who have been working so hard, and for our fans who were really getting excited, and most of all for the student athletes who have worked very, very diligently, have worked hard, have had their hopes up, and hopefully we can keep their morale where it can be, and keep moving through this thing.
Bill, on Monday we heard from the head football coach for the first time in about a month, and boy, there was some passion and some fight in him on Monday. What did you think of Scott's performance and the leadership that he showed on Monday?
I thought it was outstanding. Scott Frost is not only very articulate, he's very smart, he's passionate, he's caring. He isn't just saying these things to be talking. He means this, and we need to remember, and our fans need to remember, that he made those comments before any decision was made on this season and such. He voiced what he felt. I thought he was very appropriate and respectful to the Big Ten, as we all are. But let me tell you, Scott Frost will have a great record as the head football coach at the University of Nebraska. But how he has handled this and what his priorities have been is what he's all about. And I watched him and listened to that, and never have I ever been in doubt that he's the right guy to be leading this football program. And I hope everybody understands how fortunate we are to have him.
Bill, the comment that he made that caught national headlines was that you all would be looking for any option to find some opponents to play this fall. Take me through that. Has that door closed completely? Where does that stand? And obviously there were people within the conference that were offended by those remarks that Scott made.
Yeah, and there were some that were very supportive of it, Greg. Again, our positioning here in Lincoln, Nebraska is different than our peers in the Big Ten, with the possible exception of Iowa. We're in a safe, clean environment. We have done everything to a T in regards to testing protocols. We could write the book on how to get a football team, volleyball team, soccer team ready for competition in the midst of a worldwide pandemic. And so we felt that if indeed the season was canceled, that we needed to be prepared to look at some options and some alternatives to hopefully play 6, 7, 8, 9, maybe 10 games with opponents outside of the Big Ten. And we were looking at that, hoping and planning to play that reduced 10-game schedule that was put out by the Big Ten that I had a lot to do with, but wanted some options in the event we couldn't. And as you know, and our fans know, that was not permissible. Primarily, I feel, Greg, because the season really wasn't canceled; it was postponed, and that means that hopefully we're going to play in the spring or sometime after the first of the calendar year, and that would have made it difficult to still play a series of non-conference games in the fall and then come back and play a conference season in the spring. At least that's how the conference felt. It wasn't how Scott and I felt, and I at the end of the day, we are proud members of the Big Ten. It's a prestigious conference, and we will be in compliance, but we thought all the way until actually yesterday that we might have a chance to do that.
Bill, in any way, did the events of the last couple of days put a strain on Nebraska's relationship in the Big Ten, at least in your eyes?
No, I don't think so. I know in some sports talk shows and such, there was some anger and feelings if you don't like the Big Ten, get out. That isn't what this was all about. We like the Big Ten. and we're going to compete in the Big Ten, and we're going to be successful in the Big Ten. So that was a decision that was made 10 years ago, and the decision stands. And our future plans are to compete and to be successful in all of our sport programs in this good conference.
Again, visiting with Nebraska Athletic Director Bill Moos here on Sports Nightly on the Husker Sports Network. It's been a wild week plus. Heck, it's been a wild 4 or 5 months since COVID shut everything down back in March. All along, Bill, you, Scott Frost, even Ted Carter, I've talked to throughout all this, have been very confident that you could keep the student athletes healthy, you could keep them safe here on campus. Take me through that. Why have you been so confident? And obviously you've had a lot of help from the medical side of things to make sure that this is the best place for your student athletes.
Well, I've said all along when I was staging the fight and turned out to go into fruition of having voluntary workouts begin the 1st of June, because I said back then, and I continue to, that the safest place for our student athletes is Lincoln, Nebraska, to get them out of high-risk areas in California and Texas and Florida and New Jersey and get them here. And the safest place once they're in Lincoln, Nebraska, is in our facilities. And our medical people, our doctors, trainers, all of our performance professionals, our psychologists, our nutritionists, everybody was queued up and ready to take care of these student athletes. Our testing protocol, how we got the student athlete from the airport to our facilities at quarantine for 2 days, testing, if we did have a positive test, how we dealt with that, all very, very well. Like I said earlier in our visit, we could write the book on that. And so we felt all along that we were on top of this, and really felt in many regards that a lot of the other conference schools were too. There were some concerns at some places, and that's understandable, but here at the University of Nebraska, because where we are, because of the great professionals, our wonderful affiliation with University of Nebraska Medical Center in Omaha, they have been so very helpful and played such a very big part in what we're doing, and will continue to. It was, I felt, a very comfortable situation that all of us felt good about, and that we were making good strides to be in a position to start our fall camps in the 3 sports, football, volleyball, and soccer, and move on into competition in September.
Bill, it must have been a gut punch for all your student athletes to hear the news that their seasons have been pushed back. How are they handling that? And can you just kind of give us a sense of their mood the last 48 hours?
That was a tough message to send out. It was a tough head coaches meeting. I had a tough time getting through that because I love those coaches, and I love our student athletes. They're just eager to compete and to be teammates, and they are resilient. We're hoping they'll all stay the course. We're working on what the schedule will be and how many hours we can have access with them in the various sports. We have the winter and spring sports coming back to start school here shortly, and can we get them into their facilities and all those things. These young people want to be here. They want to be with their teammates. They want to have the discipline and structure that they need, and we want to provide it. So disappointed, yes. Think about it. They have dreamt of competing at the college level, the major college level, at a storied program like the University of Nebraska, in the prestigious Big Ten, and for right now, those dreams are crushed. And it's going to take all we've got to make sure we embrace them, love them, take care of them, and get through this together. And I really feel that we have the people at all levels and capacities to do that.
Again, visiting with Nebraska Athletic Director Bill Moose here on Sports Nightly on the Husker Sports Network. Bill, the mountain ahead of you as far as the economic impact for your department has to be pretty daunting. I know the city's going to have to deal with this. The state's going to have to deal with this. You took some steps back in June to try to, soften the blow, but it probably can't even compare to what may be lying ahead of you. Just talk a little bit about the challenge that lies ahead of you and your department.
Well, when we made those tough decisions, Greg, back in June, we eliminated 17 positions, some of those high-level positions, and made a budget cut of 10% to address a budget deficit that in the beginning we were thinking might be 12, maybe $15 million. With the news that we received this week, we now are looking at a deficit in athletics alone, right here, I'm not talking the university, of north of $100 million. If we can get the television revenue or parts of it with a non-traditional season, that'll help. But as we've talked before, each home football game is worth $12 million. And that didn't count television and our media partners and all of those things. So we've been meeting for quite some time. Now we have a solid feel for the dilemma we're facing. My senior staff right now, as we're speaking, is in our conference room looking at all the different ways that we can address this. So that is a daunting exercise. Now, last time we talked, I mentioned the family of Lincoln. We care about all these businesses, all these wonderful people in Lincoln and throughout the greater Lincoln area and all around the state of Nebraska. At that time, I was talking about a $250 million economic negative impact. It's probably closer to $300 million that 7 home games at capacity provide, and that's a lot of businesses, a lot of jobs, a lot of families that are going to be affected, and that weighs heavy on me, and it weighs heavy on all of the administrators at the University of Nebraska. So, this is an amazing state, and we will lock arms, and we will march through this much like we did in the aftermath of the floods that took place earlier and last year, and we'll get there, and it'll make us stronger. We'll come out better in the end, but I have a strong care and feelings for the people that are going to be affected, both in our department at the university in Lincoln and throughout the entire state of Nebraska.
Well, Bill, I know you know this, but the fan base, they're hurting right along with you. They love their Huskers and all the sports, football in particular. I think they've been crushed with the news the last couple of days as well. So good words there from you to just tell them to hang in there, hang with us, and there'll come a day where they'll be able to come back in through our stadiums and our arenas and cheer these wonderful Husker student athletes on.
They will, and that'll be a grand and glorious time, and we'll all rejoice then. And what wonderful fans they are. The only good news is I'm not going to have to, and my staff, figure out who could come into the stadium and who couldn't if we had a capacity issue in regards to the virus. So hopefully we aren't going to have to do that. We can get back next year with full capacity, marching bands, spirit squads, tailgating, everything like we've enjoyed through all of these years. And I feel strongly that we'll get there. Hang with us, and Greg, thank you, and all our affiliates around the state who have been so fabulous. Really thank them, the media. We've got a story to tell, and we're going to have some good, fabulous endings to all this down the road.
Back Sports Nightly here on a Thursday night. Greg Sharp, Ben McLaughlin with you again. Thanks to Athletic Director Bill Moose for spending a good chunk of his night with us. I think we covered a lot in there, Ben. And I guess the door now officially closed on trying to play games here in the fall.
Yeah, man, I say this every time. We face with a lot of issues with Bill Moose as our athletic director, but I'm just so happy he's on our side. I'm happy, of his vision. I'm proud that he's the one representing our university in these meetings. There hasn't been – I can't think of anything on these big issues that Nebraska's been involved in that I've disagreed with him. And the best interest of Nebraska is always on his mind. He sticks up for his coaches. He's behind them. He shows support. He shows support for our community, for our people, and is passionate about this place. And I respect the heck out of him. And like I said, I'm glad he's on our side.
Yep, no doubt. All right, full boat of calls. Let's try to pick off a few here before we go to a break. Todd in Omaha has been hanging on. Good evening, Todd. Welcome to Sports Nightly.
Hey, gentlemen. How's it going?
Good, Todd. How you doing, man?
Well, I'm hanging in. A little frustrated. It just seems, love Bill's passion and Coach Frost. I don't think whoever made the decision, if it was Warren by himself or some of the other presidents, but I don't think they ever intended to play. I think going to a conference only, they just wanted to buy time, but I don't understand how you put out a schedule last Wednesday and then 3-4 days later you're making a decision to shut down the season and not be anywhere near transparent. Like, why isn't the athletic directors, coaches, and even the players part of this decision? They're the ones that they're out there performing, doing all the work, making, the money for the universities and everything. Why everything's so secretive? And this new commissioner, horrible on his press conference, wouldn't answer questions. And I think they need to explain to the coaches and athletic director and to the fans of where you come up with the decision when Ohio State, Penn State, Nebraska, Michigan, their medical people say you can play. And I just like to know why. And then we get threatened that we want to play a few why shouldn't we be able to play South Dakota State, North Dakota State, and a few others during the fall here? And then if they're going to start in January, because we know that's not going to happen in March. You can't have these players play in late spring and then kick it up again in the fall. It just seems what I'm going to say is what Jack Brewer said. He's a former Golden Gopher, NFL. He just basically didn't take any punches. He said this is all political. And so I believe that 100%. It's too bad, So anyway, let's hear your guys' comments.
Thanks, Todd. Appreciate it. Yeah, I think everything you laid out there is the biggest frustration Husker fans have with everything that's happened in the last few days. I think you listed about 3 or 4 things. I think those are the top 3 or 4 things people are upset with.
And I asked Bill Moose, you guys were convinced all along you could medically safely do this, and he said we did. We're getting great advice from UNMC, and they were also part of the Big Ten advisory board. There just seems an awful lot of unanswered questions coming out of the league office. Need to take a break. Back with some more calls next.
You're listening to Sports Nightly. This is the Husker Sports Network.
Now order your groceries online and get them even faster with Hy-Vee Aisles Online same-day pickup. Just choose the Get It Faster option for only $9.95 and pick up your groceries in as little as 2 hours. Plus, we've added even more pickup times to choose from. You'll find the same great deals as in-store. Free pickup on orders over $30 and no contact pickup and delivery. Download the Hy-Vee Grocery app today and pick up groceries in as little as 2 hours. Some restrictions apply.
And it's going to be just like the old days, but even better, because now it's old school meets new school. Whoa, did you just dip your pizza in Dorothy Lynch?
Yeah, man, it's amazing. Here, I got extra. Try it with your hot dog.
Oh, wow. Hey, we need another hot dog over here. So as I was saying, it's a whole new game now.
Here we go again.
Rooted in our tradition as a team.
Shake up tradition with the one-of-a-kind flavor that goes with anything. Game day or any day. Dorothy Lynch, endless flavorabilities.
This is the Husker Sports Network from Learfield IMG College. You're listening to Sports Nightly.
There's no community like a Cenex community. And that's why every Cenex store is so proud to serve theirs by supporting local athletic teams, promoting the arts, and making sure each store is a place its neighbors can find what they need, catch up with their friends, and stay connected. It's also why we give back, helping to make the wonderful places we call home the best they can be. Your local Cenex doesn't just work in your town, it lives there. The store next door, powered locally at Cenex.
From the University of Nebraska-Lincoln, I'm journalism student Grace Fitzgibbon with Campus News. For the third straight year, the University of Nebraska is ranked among the world's top 100 universities for earning the most U.S. patents. It's confirmation Nebraska faculty are among the best in the world at transferring cutting-edge research and creative activity to the marketplace. The result? New companies, jobs, and products that grow the economy and improve quality of life.
Sports Nightly Hotline brought to you by the Woodhouse Auto Family, bringing you more choices in brands, locations, and service. Experience the difference. Purchase with confidence. This is Woodhouse. Back to the phones we go. Let's go to Bellevue next. Jim, welcome to Sports Nightly. Good evening.
Hi. Hey, thanks for taking my call.
Sure.
My question, once we get cleared for the players to wear pads, can't we have an inter-squad game, like a spring game, right here in the fall and show the Big Ten how we support our team and maybe make a little money back?
Yeah, I think the only problem with that idea is I don't think the Big Ten's ever gonna let that happen until they've got an official start date of when the season's going to be. I don't think they're just going to let them go.
Jim, thanks for the call. I don't think they've given teams the clearance to put pads on. In fact, I know they have.
That's what he was saying. You can't. And the Big Ten won't. They won't say you can put on pads until you're starting March 1st. You can put on pads February 10th. I mean,
yes.
that's what it would be.
So I think Nebraska would love to do a little fall game type thing, but if you can't put pads on, not really the ability to do that. Let's go to Omaha. Sean, you're up next here on Sports Nightly. Good evening. Welcome to the program.
Hey, how's it going? Well, I'm going to call you out, Bill Frost, everybody else. How come nobody's bringing up Mr. Warren, the commissioner's letting his son play for Mississippi in a hot bit of COVID where they ain't got a decent hospital in that state? I used to live there, and nobody's bringing that up. His son's competing for the starting job at Mississippi State. Either his son's got an immunity that none of us are aware of, or he hates his kid and doesn't care because he won't let us play.
We did bring it up. We talked about it quite a bit last night, Sean, so I got on a bit of a rant, so I'm probably not going to repeat that night after night, but I guarantee you we're going to be tracking whether Kevin Warren's son is playing football this fall for Mississippi State. As far as I know right now, he is.
Yeah, I never thought I'd be interested in the position battles that are happening in Stark Vegas under new head coach Mike Leach. But, hey, count me interested now. I'd like to see how that works out.
Just a minute to go. Chris in Albuquerque's been hanging on. Hey, Chris, I have about a minute left in the hour. Go.
All right, thank you. I was just wondering, with all this stuff going on, how does it affect any future plans of the facility upgrades?
Yeah, great question. I know Bill Moose about a month ago had said they're still moving forward, but this new revelation may put the pause on that, I would guess, at some point in time. I thought about asking him about that tonight, but there was certainly a lot of other pressing things to get to, but we'll certainly get out there and figure that out in the coming months. But my guess is that's going to be paused. Has to be when you're going to maybe lose $100 million in the next fiscal year. Whew, that's brutal. Well, great calls. All of on our Woodhouse Auto Family Sports Nightly hotline. Purchase with confidence. This is Woodhouse. Again, thanks to Bill Moose for spending some time with us here on a Thursday on what's been a wild, wild week.
And Sports Nightly rolling along on a Thursday night. Happy to welcome in our next guest to the program, my co-host on Husker Game Day, Mr. Brendan Stye. Brendan, I know it's been a rough week for everybody that represents the N and has been a part of the N. how have you kind of processed what's happened in the last 72 hours?
Well, I'm a little shocked, a lot shocked, if you will. I thought Wednesday, the announcement of the schedule got a lot of people's hopes up, and really kind of, from our perspective, working in the athletic department, it was a matter of now figuring out seating concessions. And, for 72 hours to go by and get the news, after the announcement that Scott had made saying he wanted to play, it just kind of threw everything into a whirlwind, and it's unfortunate. I'm really upset about it, actually.
Yeah, and I think a lot of people are, and I think the idea of no Husker football, I don't know that we truly understand the effects that this is going to have. One of the reasons why we wanted to have you on is you have the unique perspective of working in the athletic department right now, but also you're an alumni. You are a big part of what made Nebraska what it is today, with the teams that you played on, the teams that earned that reputation around the country. What is it about, in your opinion, Brendan, the Nebraska brand that people seem to want to call out, want to pick on, low-hanging fruit, if you will, with this university, to have the people have been saying what they have about our program, about our head coach, and about what Nebraska stands for in the last day or two?
Yeah, I was really taken back with Desmond's comments. I was a teammate with Desmond Howard, and in my opinion, he's Desmond Coward. Sits behind a desk and really uneducatedly makes those kind of statements about a program that he doesn't know anything about, and certainly doesn't pay the respect that Scott should get for really putting his keys on the table and letting everybody know really what everybody's thinking. The elephant in the room is we want to play. These kids want to play. They work their tails off to get a chance to go out and play football. And to think that mitigating football or mitigating COVID-19 is getting rid of football is ridiculous. The risks that these kids take day in and day out. They walk in the weight room, practice field, out on the field. It's certainly a risk every single time. And for somebody to sit back, and even Wilbon, I know him, certainly have a great deal of respect for him. But again, to really kind of take it all into one breath and just say, Nebraska needs to sit on the sidelines on this one. And, they need to apologize for the comments that they've made to about trying to get a chance to, put forward a product on the field and go play football. And all the while, making sure that our student athletes are safe. And, to really kind of address Kevin Warren, I think, he's had a lot on his table in the 6 months that he's had the job. Now, whether or not he's done the job well, that's remains to be seen. But I certainly don't think some of the decisions that have been made have been prudent to being, effectively put into place. I think there were decisions probably made a long time ago, and the general statement of coming out and putting the season, as far as the schedule out, was a way of kind of comforting the blow when they had to make the announcement that they were going to go ahead and postpone the season, which, I thought was not the correct way to do it. But certainly I'm not a guy to be making those decisions. It just, to me, it doesn't sound like it was, a very well thought out when it comes to the whole equation, Ben. From an economical standpoint, each market, you're talking apples to oranges in every market. Lincoln certainly is not the same market as Northwestern, so there's so many things that are going to be affected by this, and just the sheer awesomeness of the number financially is incredible. And then not only that, but I think the mental state of all athletes, obviously football is a huge one, but to cancel all fall sports, especially with these seniors. And then the other thing that bothers me, Ben, you guys have probably talked about it a little bit, is the NC2A kind of sitting on their hands until recently, coming out with, some parameters for some of these student athletes.
Yeah, and that's I've even put out a tweet yesterday saying that same thing. Why is it that is a conference by conference basis? Obviously, their stake in football is much different than it is in other sports. Brendan, one thing that stuck out to me and made me feel about the University of Nebraska is a great sense of pride in the way that they've handled it, but even more so the sense of unity that I feel that Nebraska has, that North Stadium has, that our football coach has from top to bottom. I feel like that's not the case in a lot of other places around the league, but to a man down the line, everybody kind of agrees on what direction and has kind of stood side by side and shoulder to shoulder. And as you know, where this program has been in the last 5 to 10 years, that hasn't always been the case. That's hard to come by. But what did you feel, seeing everybody kind of forge together from the top down, from the president to the chancellor, athletic director, head coach, and even down into the fans, about how unified everybody was?
Yeah, no doubt. I think you couldn't have said that probably 10 years ago. I think that there was not a unification of the athletic department. I think we've gotten to that point now. I was really proud from top to bottom, just like you said, the same message, carrying that same message. And certainly our Nebraska fans have always been true. They've always been passionate about what we do, and they're educated. And they do have an opinion. They want to be heard. And, platforms like this radio show have given those fans the ability to do that. And I think, there's an unbiased opinion that's being written, I think, in local papers and on the radio, and some of it's biased as well. But with that being said, you've got to be unified in any sort of decisions that are made. And you look at what the Big Ten has done, and I don't know that it was unified. I mean, when you have the rumor, I don't know if there's any truth to it, but a 12-2 split, as far as voting on whether or not to postpone the season, I mean, you got to be, I would think, majority. I mean, everybody's got to vote yes, or you can't walk out of that room.
Yeah, and I would agree with that as well. And while we're on the subject of kind of national perception, where did the idea that Nebraska wanted to leave the Big Ten, or they were threatening to leave the Big Ten, come from? And how far out of touch is that from reality?
I think that is perception's reality, right? I think people start to talk and whisper, and just start to assume. That was never mentioned once, not once by us, not once by Bill Moose, not once by Scott Frost. The only thing that was mentioned was the possibility of, creating a situation where we get to play. And if there's other schools out there, what's wrong with that? The thing that I don't get about all this is, why pull the plug now? Why not let these kids go through camp and make sure that they're in an environment to where, you're beta testing to see if it can work. I mean, the SEC, the ACC, Big 12, they're all going to move forward. And I'm sure if something outbreaks that is, unforeseeable and you can't control, then you've got to mitigate it and you've got to postpone it even further.
Something that's confusing to a lot of people, myself included, is how different seemingly the medical opinions are of the experts that each institution, each conference is consulting. Everybody seems to say that, based on the experts' opinions and people that they're consulting, they're recommending either to play or not to play. When you hear that with medically based information from experts on both sides of this thing, what's that make you feel? Like, how do you come down on what to believe if you have experts in such different camps?
I don't know what to believe. It's been like this ever since this outbreak, this pandemic started. On one side of the fence, I don't care if it's political or not. I mean, you have different opinions on both sides, and it's so inconsistent. For example, you're walking down the street, you're expected to wear a mask in Colorado, but yet you go into a restaurant in Colorado and there's 50 people sitting in the same area that you are. Half an hour ago, they were on the street. You couldn't even go by them without a mask on. Now you're sitting with them with no mask. Where's the consistency there? To me, it's the bottom line with this virus is to ensure that it is not a huge outbreak. Why? Because of our infrastructure, our hospital systems. That is, I think, the main objective with this. It's clear. The numbers show you, there are certainly much more worse things out there that are going to take lives. Do we know, what the long-term effects of this virus is going to have? No, we don't. But do we know what concussions are going to do? Do we know what the long-term effect, pounding on the body has? Each and everybody has a different body, and they all respond differently, and they all, in the long term, are affected differently. So, again, it's just the uncertainty. When you're talking about medical experts that are now saying that, I think taking the next step and trying to mitigate and make sure that these players are safe is doing the chest exams and making sure the pulmonary whatever the effects that this virus has on the lungs, to make sure that they're looking at that as well. And then they're saying, okay, it's okay to go out and play. And then you have the opposite side of that saying there's not even a chance. The uncertainty is keeping us off the field. Okay, so what does that do? That sends these kids away from an environment that's safe, puts them back into an environment where there's no control. Now you're getting yourself into what we're trying to get away from, is having this spread even further. So it just doesn't make any sense. Really.
Yeah. I mean, currently we're living in a world where it's safe for the Iowa State Cyclones to play football, but not the Iowa Hawkeyes. And I think that's where, a lot of the confusion sets in is, based on where you're at and who's speaking for you, it's safe or not. Looking forward, Brendan, to the current situation that it is, based on that point, that based on which conference you're in, you're either allowed to play or not as of today. How detrimental, in your eyes, would it be to the Big Ten and to the Pac-12 if these other three major conferences are able to play while we're sitting on TV watching them play in the fall, if this hypothetically goes on without a hiccup?
It'll take a long time to recover financially. It's certainly, we're just Nebraska athletics alone, we're looking at $100 million hit. The state of Nebraska, it has been projecting anywhere from $350 million to $400. So when you're talking about a financial aspect, there's the hit that is going to take you probably 5 to 10 years, if not longer, to recover from. And then I think from a recruiting standpoint, the Big Ten Conference is going to take a hit. Because if I'm a kid getting recruited, do I want to go play for a conference that's meek and is unwilling to take chances and risks and, in a safe and educated way? No, I'm going to look towards the conferences that are going to be bold and take those chances. So,
yeah, I would agree with that as well. Well, you kind of mentioned, but what's next? I mean, from an athletic department standpoint, from a football standpoint, with this decision looming, hypothetically a spring season supposedly still on the table. I don't see how that happens, but what's next on a day-to-day basis? What's going to be going on over there at the stadium and how they're going to handle this?
Well, I think you take it step by step. You don't try to eat an elephant all at once. Certainly, first and foremost, we have to make sure that these student athletes are taken care of and put together a very smart and systematic approach to the next 5 months for these student athletes. And then from there, you try to figure out, if it is at all feasible, how does that look? It does spring even have a chance of even happening, and what does that look like? And I think probably the biggest thing of all this is preparing for what we're going to face probably in the next 12 months, and that is internally. How does Nebraska athletics deal with the hit of $100 million? So a lot of lives are going to be impacted from this, and they already have been. And I'm not just saying, hey, everybody will pour Nebraska athletics. I mean, it's going to impact the university. It's going to impact the state of Nebraska. It's impacting everywhere. Read about it in nauseum, but this is just so unprecedented and unfathomable, I think, and people are still kind of like just in shock.
Yeah, and I don't know that shock's going to wear off anytime soon. I don't know that we know the answers to a lot of those questions and won't for quite some time. One thing is for sure, we're all probably on the same wavelength of how we're feeling and taking in this news that was passed down this week, that there is no fall football for the Big Ten Conference. Brendan, it's great to hear from you, man. I wish it was under better circumstances. Hopefully the family's doing well. I don't know when I'm going to be able to see you next, but looking forward to that day. Thanks for stopping by and giving us a few minutes, man.
You bet. And you know what? Everybody out there, we're going to get through this. We're going to be better for it. I know you heard Bill Moose say that and Scott say that. And just you got to be positive, keep forging forward, and really, just being safe, I think, is probably the most important thing we can do to try to mitigate.
Beastie, thanks, buddy. Have a good one.
Thanks, Ben. Take care. Bye.
We're back, Sports Highlight Thursday night. Greg Sharp, Ben McLaughlin with you. Thomas on our text line. Hey, guys, texting from San Diego. What A.D. Bill Moose says gave me a lot of hope that we will be back and better than ever, and thanks to him for always thinking of the student athletes and the community. Thomas, thank you so much for listening to us, and I agree. Love Bill Moose.
Love to be out in San Diego right now.
Yeah, we were there not too long ago, right before all this got shut down. Let's head to the phones. Mary is out there with us tonight. Good evening, Mary. Welcome to Sports Nightly.
Hey, Greg. Go Big Red. I think Husker Nation, we love our athletes. We're going to be there for them. I look at the fact that the athletic department is going to suffer, like the city of Lincoln and so many cities around the state will suffer, and I think that there are innovative ways that we can help support them. Maybe if the athletic department could raffle off or auction off experiences with the pipeline and, the alumni, our former players who we love, and maybe we can't be in together and have an experience with them, but maybe we could do a Zoom call with them, and I might pay for that. Or maybe I can send some money to the city of Lincoln because I park in their parking lots typically, and I won't do that this fall, but I know that they still need my support, so maybe I can do my part by sending in some money to them or sending some money to Sandy's to make up for the Elk Creeks that I won't buy this season so that they'll be there for me next season when I can. And bottom line, I think anybody who didn't expect that this opponent that we're facing, we didn't have in our playbook the expectation that this might all be pulled out from underneath us. I think you're not realistic. And I know that there's political stuff going on, but like Brendan Stye just said, the best thing that we can all do is to do our part to be safe, not complain about wearing masks, but wear them and do the right thing so that we can squash this and live out our lives the way we want to in the future. We might not be able to now, but we will in the future. So go Big Red. I think everybody can, I'm fortunate. I'm still working. I'm working from home. I didn't lose a job, so I have disposable income that I can't spend on going to restaurants because I can't go to restaurants right now. But I could probably support the city of Lincoln and the athletic department in ways that I would have otherwise. So just some ideas.
Thanks,
Love
Mary.
the Huskers, and we'll get there.
Thanks, Mary. Appreciate it. It's first of all, glad to hear that things are going well for you and you're not affected by this, at least with your employment status. And I think Bill Moose was kind of talking about people like you when he was talking about the great people of our community and how we're going to rally behind and do everything we can to help. And your ingenuity, your thought process, I think send all those ideas in, because I think they're taking any and all suggestions from fans and people that are willing to help. That's fantastic that you're willing to do that and step forward, and hopefully there are many others like you. But thank you for the words that you spoke and your willingness to help out. That's great, and I hope a lot of people that are able to help or can see this as an issue to rally behind. They take advantage to do that. So thanks, Mary.
Appreciate it, Mary. Great uplifting call there. Brian and Carol on our text line wants to know, does the conference have any reserve funds to help supplement schools so hopefully sports and positions don't have to be cut? Not that I'm aware of. I don't know if the conference office is flush with cash. Maybe I'm missing something.
Yeah, I'm not sure either. If there was ever a time to pull out a rainy day fund, though, this would be the day.
Yeah, I just don't think there is. I know Nebraska has a rainy day fund, which I'm sure they're going to have to tap into it. I don't think it covers the kind of loss that Bill Moose told us earlier in the show was there. He says now it looks like back when he made some cuts in late June, they were still anticipating getting some football played this fall in Memorial Stadium. He thought it would be maybe $10 to $12 million losses. Now he's saying it's about $100 million. I mean, that is just a giant cavern that goes up from there. Nathan in South Dakota, Ben, says these kids deserve a chance to play. If the Big Ten says they can't, anyone who wants to transfer should be allowed to and given immediate eligibility. That's going to be a story to follow. We haven't heard anything about that, but and again, if you transfer and you're going to a school that right now says they're going to play, there's no guarantee that they play. So I don't know that's a wise move for these kids to transfer on the hope that the Big 12 hangs in there and gets something done. Plus, can that school, do they have open scholarships to give you? I mean, I'm sure kids, because the first reaction you have when something like this happens is, go, get out of here, move. But then I think you have to take a deep breath and kind of look back and go, well, where am I going to go that ensures that I'm going to play?
Yeah, and the eligibility, I mean, there is a laundry list of questions that need to be answered right now, and the eligibility issue is is right toward the top of the list. What do you do with these players? And the NCAA kind of addressed that already with the council recommendations yesterday in their meeting, recommending that, if anybody that's lost a season can have an extra season back of eligibility. That's not going to apply to everybody because there are going to be a handful of athletes that don't take advantage of that, don't want to take advantage of that. Same situation that we ran into with some of our baseball players that had jobs or opportunities elsewhere that they wanted to pursue, but that opportunity is at least on the table. And the eligibility issue is going to be a huge question. And I know Coach Frost had even addressed that earlier this week, Greg. The number one question he got from his players was about the eligibility and what's going to happen with that.
I asked one of the questions I asked Bill Moose was, what's the mood of the student athletes? I mean, they've just found out within the last 48 hours there's not going to be a season. I mean, that had to be tough. He said it was. It's got to be somber. There's got to be anger. There's got to be. I mean, you haven't seen a lot of social media posts from the guys, a few that have trickled out, but I can only imagine, Ben, inside that locker room, inside those guys' dorm rooms, wherever they're gathering to talk, there's just got to be a lot of pent-up frustration because they have been back to work, a lot of them since early May, to get ramped up for this. They've been going through the almost daily testing that they've been Nebraska was ready. I don't know that everybody in the Big Ten was ready for a season. Nebraska was. They prepared going back to May to play football in September and to get ramped up and ready, see the schedule come out last week. It just had to be like falling off Niagara Falls.
Yeah, we had a caller call me out early in the show about forging on and keep it going. That's why I think it's going to be hard, Greg, at least maybe not forever, but for the first couple of weeks. I mean, to have it be so close to being here, time to go, and then have the dejection of having it pulled out away from you. I don't know how you can show up to work with the same attitude, effort, and energy that you would knowing that you were going to play. Especially being so young and being ready to go and having that competitive juice on your mind all the time. I mean, I don't know that it's realistic to expect those guys to show up to work the next day after that happened. I know they're resilient, but at some point, being a human and having feelings kicks in and takes over. You're approaching a day a heck of a lot different if you're knowing you're kicking off in less than a month than you don't know when you're ever putting pads on and playing for the Huskers again. It's just different. It's a different feeling.
Just look at their last 6 months. They had spring ball taken away from them. Not that they love spring ball, but I think some guys gravitate toward it because they know it's a chance to jump up the depth chart. They love the spring game. They love the atmosphere around that. All Husker fans love going to the spring game. So that gets pulled out from them. Then they get kind of ramped up again for a fall season that now has been taken away from them. Now they have the carrot kind of hanging out there. Well, we're going to play the spring. We're going to play the spring. And I'm still real skeptical of that happening. So do you ramp up again and then get – I mean, how much disappointment can people take before you kind of check out on things? I mean, it's a really, really difficult time when you're 18, 19, 20-year-old and you're just kind of wondering, is the world ever going to give me a break?
Especially when a lot of these kids, that's the purpose of going to Nebraska. Yes, I understand getting a degree and, education and all that, but you're lying to yourself if you think that that's going to be the one of the sole purposes of them coming to Nebraska is to play football. It's one thing if it was a secondary issue that they had taken away. They can't use their weight room, or you have to use a certain helmet. You think of other things that it would affect them, but to completely take it away from them for the reason why they came here in the first place, you can't help but wonder, how many guys are in their dorm room going right now going, what are we doing? What's going on here?
Right. Yeah. All right, need to take a break. Teddy Greenstein of the Chicago Tribune. He will join us next. We're back Thursday night, Sports Sunday. Thursday nights, we always like to check in with our man from Chicago, Teddy Greenstein.
He's originally from New York, but now calls the second city his home. He prefers seeing a yellow card over an icing call. His choice in pizza is still up for debate, but his knowledge of sports spans from boxing to yachting. Here's the worldly Teddy Greenstein of the Chicago Tribune.
Coming to us tonight from a golf course. And you obviously played some golf today, my friend.
I played with Dan Dockage today, and Dan Dockage's brother. And Dan and I have joked about this for a long time. I was so bad the last time I played with him. Midway through, he said, "Teddy, are you drunk?" Today wasn't quite as bad, but this is Butler National, which should host a U.S. Open one day. An incredibly difficult golf course in the western suburbs of Chicago. So certainly had a good time, but great to be with you, Greg.
Good for you. All right, let's get into the story of the week, and that's the Big Ten canceling the college football season. And I thought, by the way, I thought Dave Revson did a great job on the BTN coverage a couple of days ago. And the question that he asked, and I don't know that we really got much of an answer, is what changed in 6 days from the schedule coming out to the postponement of it? What's your theory on that?
You know, Rever did a great job, and Kevin Warren did, let's be honest, he didn't do very well. I don't think he was very prepared. It was a 20-minute interview, and he gave very, very little information. One on the Nebraska question, which I'm sure we'll get into, but two on the why. And unlike the Pac-12, which really gave some medical reasoning, like they had three specific things. One was really a lack of testing. So right now, you know, let's say they were going to have a college football game at 11 a.m. You would want to test the players at 7, and you would want to get a result back by 8 a.m., right? Well, they don't really have the capabilities of that. 2, this myocarditis. They just don't know the long-term effects. And then 3, the fact that it's just very prevalent around the country. We're still seeing tens of thousands of cases a day. That makes travel, especially commercial travel, potentially not dangerous, but risky. And I wish Kevin had gotten into that more. I mean, he says, well, we're in a pandemic. We know we're in a pandemic. But he needed to explain what the issues are and the fact that the reason that it came down now is because schools had to either start full padded practices or pull the plug, right? Like Rutgers was scheduled to play Nebraska in, I mean, what was it, 3.5, 4 weeks?
Yep.
So you're either going to go for it now and have real practices or you're not. And that was why they did it now.
Just wish they had. I think a lot of people just wish they hadn't had the big reveal of the schedule last Wednesday. If they were that, if it was on that thin of ice, just sit on it and just wait. Okay, let's get into the Nebraska issue. Scott Frost had a very passionate press conference on Monday where he clearly said, and I don't know if a lot of the national media knows this, he clearly said we love being a part of the Big Ten, but if the Big Ten says no football, we'd like to find a way to play some games this fall. He didn't talk about leaving the league, but Nebraska got creamed nationally for saying something that Ryan Day said multiple times in the last several days.
I thought it was unfair. I thought Desmond Howard went totally overboard. You know, Michael Wilbon, that's kind of the nature of the show. He probably went too strong. I mean, look, don't crush Nebraska. I mean, I talked to Fred Hoiberg the other day. His point was, look, we're having more flu deaths than COVID deaths. I mean, you guys are fortunate there. It has not affected you the same way it has a lot of places in the country. I mean, you got to put yourselves in the shoes of other people. So if you're Scott Frost and you're Nebraska, I mean, you're saying, look, we want to try to play. I don't think it was such an offensive statement where Nebraska has to apologize or, I thought the reaction was totally overboard, Greg. And look, obviously Nebraska came back and said, we're proud members of the league and we're not going to do this, but it wasn't cause for people to get as angry as they did.
You know, and the one thing that I don't think the national people think about, the three closest Division I programs to Lincoln is Kansas State, Kansas, and Iowa State. And as of right now, those three programs are playing, and Nebraska butts head with those guys for recruits. I mean, that could be a real disadvantage.
Well, think about Notre Dame. I mean, Notre Dame is an hour and 45 minutes from here, and they're acting like, what's the problem? You know, we're playing football. We've got the ACC doctor from Duke who says this is fine. So it's close. I mean, it's kind of like, you know, when you get you go to multiple doctors and you get multiple diagnoses and one says have surgery and one says don't have surgery. It's close enough where some doctors are saying it's a risk, don't do it, and some are saying it's a risk, but you can do it.
Yeah, and I think that adds to the confusion. And Tenny Greenstein with us from a golf course in Chicago here tonight on Sports Highly. All right, now the talk is spring. Jeff Brom has a big plan that he put out today. Ryan Day mentioned some things yesterday. How realistic do you think that is?
I think it's very, very unlikely. You know, the only one that I liked hearing was from a coach who said, let's do it this way. Don't think of it as a separate spring season with a postseason. Think of it as maybe, what if we could play 6 games in the spring and then 10 games in the fall, and it's kind of split seasons? Because the concept that you're going to start having, bowl games and a playoff and a championship that go into May. I just don't think any of it's feasible. And I wouldn't want to then say, okay, well, then we're going to start the fall season in October. I mean, I want to have a really good, awesome fall season that starts around Labor Day. So, if you want to try to pull off 6 games and get creative and do it in domes and have double headers and triple headers with all of the Big Ten teams here, maybe that's feasible, but I still have my doubts. But this concept that you're going to, play a whole slew of games, I think is ridiculous.
Yeah, we'll follow it, but I'm skeptical about that. All right, you're on a golf course. I got to ask you about the PGA. How great was that drama on Sunday, and what a shot at 16 by Colin Morikawa. How much did you enjoy the PGA?
Absolutely loved it. I love the fact that it was late at night. I mean, it's clearly why TV loves going to the West Coast because, I think it ended around, did it end at 8 Central Time?
Yeah.
You can do all stuff during the day with your family and then come back, and it was, was there a 7-way tie for first at one point? And amazing talent up there on the leaderboard. I had Tony Finau. I'm trying to get him a top 5 so I can, cash in a little bit. But Colin is, what a player. 23 years old. And for those who really have not heard about him yet, they know about him now. That shot into 16 on the drivable 4 was immaculate.
Isn't a drivable 4 on a back nine of a major maybe the best thing, and maybe the only thing the Augusta National's missing? But boy, that's great drama. Do the guys go for it? What kind of trouble can they get in? Can they get an eagle like Colin did? I love those drivable par 4s late in a major.
Yeah, that one at TPC Harding, there probably needs to be more of a hazard there. Because even if you pull it really badly into a bunker, then you can still get up and down for a relatively easy birdie. So I do like drivable 4s, but there has to be some punishment there. There has to be some water, some real pain if you can't pull it off.
All right, we'll let you get back to the 19th hole. Have a great week. Yes. We'll talk next week.
Thanks, Greg. Be well, everybody.
There he is, Teddy Greenstein, joining us on our Sports Nightly Hotline, brought to you by the Woodhouse Auto Family, bringing you more choices in brands, locations, and service. Experience the difference. Purchase with confidence. This is Woodhouse. All right, when we come back, our Flicks Picks of the Week. That's straight ahead.
Struggling to find something to watch?
There's no crying in baseball!
Well, we've got you covered.
I'm going to make him an offer he can't refuse.
All right, Mr. DeMille, I'm ready for my close-up.
It's time now for Sports Nightly Flicks Picks.
And action!
Here we are. This is a fun little segment for us. Ben McLaughlin, take the lead.
I would say time to let our hair down, but none of us have hair, so we'll just
all 3 of us.
We'll just start the segment. I did watch A League of Their Own this last weekend. That was in the Open there. What a tremendous movie! So good.
Yeah,
such a good movie.
It is. You had seen it before that, correct?
Oh yeah, hundreds of times.
Okay.
Yeah.
But
we are on to a show that isn't new, but there is a new season out. We're pretty excited. It's called Shameless, and it's out on Netflix.
Nobody's saying our neighborhood's a Garden of Eden, but it's been a good home to my kids. Fiona.
No. The bat is for killing, not for taking to school.
My rock.
I'm here to help Karen study for a midterm.
Lip, smart as a whip.
I get paid for tutoring.
I know.
Debbie, sent by God, raises money for UNICEF, some of which she actually turns in. Carl. I don't really know that much about Carl. Oh, loves animals.
If you're not familiar with it, it's a show about a family in the lower class in Chicago struggling to make ends meet because of their mom had abandoned them. Their dad is a drunk drug addict who's just never around, and it's a family with a bunch of kids trying to raise themselves. Not something you would want to have. It's definitely an after dark show. You don't want to have your children around when you watch it, but it's pretty funny. I enjoy it, and looking forward to watching the new season that's out.
Any recognizable cast members?
William H. Macy,
no.
right?
Yeah, and then there's
okay.
What's the gal's name? Man, I can't think of her name. She was in a couple of Disney movies when we were kids, but she's the main actress. So, but yeah, it's good. It's funny. There's a lot of funny humor in there, and obviously some things that are controversial. But it's easy watching, and there's some good humor.
Nice. All right, Tim.
All right, well, this one, Greg will be delighted to know, is a foreign film, but it does come from the year 2014. It's not a black and white French New Wave thing. And I hesitate to recommend this movie because it's so twisted and, like, disturbing, but I just was fascinated by it. It's called Good Night, Mommy. And it's this German horror movie where this mother has some facial reconstructive surgery, some type of plastic surgery, and her kids start to suspect, because her face is all bandaged throughout the first half of the movie, and her kids start to suspect that it's not really her. And they kind of goes from there, and that's all I'll say, because the more you learn about it, the less of the impact it has. But now, I want to stress that this is not a, like, date night kind of horror movie. This isn't like, let's go, snack on some popcorn. No, this is a little bit... If you're a little bit twisted, you're going to like this movie, and you're going to judge me really, really hardcore for liking it. But I know it's an interesting movie. I would say check it out if you have a strong stomach. But don't just flip this on if you're ready for a casual watch, because it's not that.
You do realize, like, your reputation's on the line when you do these segments. Like, people would, like, try and piece together what Tim's personality's really like, and you're putting together quite the complex persona of yourself.
This is a risk to recommend it. You're right. This is a risky thing to recommend, but when I saw it, I couldn't get it out of my head. So
Tim, what's your favorite movie?
Well, it's tough. I mean, like, the best movie I've ever seen versus my favorite. Like, the favorite, like, I'll watch anything, Spielberg, E.T., or go back to the old Star Wars movies. Love the original trilogy. But in terms of, like, the best stuff I've ever seen is, if you ever seen, well, you probably haven't, I would imagine, but Stalker, which is by Andrei Tarkovsky, which is a Russian sci-fi movie, and it sounds like it's a creepy horror movie. It's actually not. That's the best movie I've ever seen. It's not my favorite because it's a bit hard to watch, but it's probably the best movie. But in terms of favorites, I mean, I got pretty vanilla taste. Like E.T. is one of my favorites. Love the old Star Wars movies, Indiana Jones, all that good stuff. So I promise I have, like, normal taste too, but I like to, every once in a while you got to throw a curveball in there if you catch my drift.
What was the name of this one again?
It's called Good Night, Mommy, but it's a German movie that came out a few years ago, and
Is it in German?
It is in German, yeah. You can get over the subtitles. I mean, it's not that bad, and there's not really a lot of dialogue. There's not a whole lot of dialogue. So
Olivia is going to be ready to watch this.
Yeah, I would say,
Ben. She asked me what I want to watch. Be like, you know what? I got this great German horror movie that I could recommend. But the good news is it's in German, so we have to read all the subtitles.
Yeah, subtitles.
Yeah, come on, it's healthy for you. Get to read a little bit. It's an experience.
Tim, if I want to read, I'll get a book.
Yeah, well, maybe you should. Maybe you should read a book. I heard Moneyball's good. It's a good book. That's what I've been told.
Whoo, boy. All right. Well, I did see the series finale of Blind Spot. It came to an end. It was actually about a week or so ago. I finally got a chance to watch it. I think they did a pretty good job putting a bow on that series that was on NBC. I think 6 seasons long. So I did see the series finale of that and did enjoy that. I also enjoyed Tim's take on this German horror film. It's got my interest.
Good night, Mommy. Sign it off, Greg.
Another hour coming up.